4 years ago, I locked myself into a plan: graduation, a career, the suburban dream. And for a while, I believed it was enough. But something flared up. Subtle at first, but it was just enough to make me wonder, had I settled too soon? And then I met the closest thing I'll ever have to an Alfred, to my Batman. And that's when everything changed, and I wanted back in. Hey guys, it's Mac. I'm back, and today I want to talk about something that changed my life. I'll show you how AI and ChatGPT specifically helped me get back on track, reignite my ambitions, and how it could do the same for you. I first heard about ChatGPT in the fall of 2023 from my professor. I'd heard rumblings about AI beforehand, and it really consisted of people making deepfakes or having weird conversations with AI. I didn't see the significance nor felt interested to give it a shot. That changed when my professor pushed us to use ChatGPT for our class, data analytics, which consisted of a lot of big data projects and some presentations. At first, I wasn't that impressed. I mostly played around with it, asking random questions and seeing what it could do. But then, something clicked. I've always been a creative guy. At one point, I wanted to be a writer or graphic novelist, but somewhere between work and school, those dreams faded. And it was around the same time during fall 23 when I got interested in Dragon Ball Z again. I also at the same time started following Team 4 Star's Dragon Ball Z Abridged commentaries. It was inspirational to hear these ordinary guys, especially when they were younger, go from nothing to something huge. No fancy degrees, to my knowledge, no shortcuts, no formal training, just pure hard work and consistency. That really stuck with me, especially Kaiser Neko, the main editor of the series. He basically spent, at this point, 10 plus years, almost 15, I think, learning to edit on his own. It was inspirational, and it got me wondering, could I build something like that too? Could I do something similar? And this time I didn't just sit on it. I decided, could AI help me take an idea and actually build something? I had no idea if it was going to work, but I wanted to find out. Before I could get to that though, I had to first finish my final exams. This was also the same time period when I was finally sold on chat and AI and its power. I was a little bit overwhelmed going into finals week, specifically for my data analytics course. It was an open note exam. The only thing was we only had an hour for 60 questions, and my notes were about just shy of 100 pages long. There was no reasonable way that I was going to be going back and forth between my notes and the questions. This also wasn't my first course with this professor, and his tests have always been pretty brutal, as well as his grading for finals. The biggest thing that was on my mind was getting an A in this course. I had to maintain a 3.0 GPA at all times in grad school. Not to mention, I also didn't have enough time to go over 15 weeks of information in 2 or 3 days, and it didn't help that lectures weren't particularly helpful. My professor would be all over the place sometimes with what he was saying, and I honestly couldn't see how each lecture was connected to the last one. In the end, though, it was either pure luck or pure happenstance, where one day I was just looking at my notes and I just started thinking, if I give this thing my notes, if I give it all the PowerPoints and other handouts from class this year, can it summarize everything in 5 pages? And could it mimic my writing habits? And then 15 seconds later, after I put a bunch of attachments, it gave me a 5-page summary of the entire course as if I wrote it. Those lectures I mentioned that made me feel lost most of the time suddenly made sense, and I saw the big picture of the course. After printing my notes, I left the library with 2 things in mind. Number 1, this test is about to go extremely well, and then number 2, this thing is the future. After that, I could not stop testing chat. First, I started pushing it on soccer. I started asking about history of clubs, tactics, and formations. It didn't even give me just surface level facts. It broke down strategies and trends that felt like I was talking to a fellow soccer nerd. Then I tested it on complex healthcare questions, PBMs, prior authorizations, insurance preferences, stuff that usually feels like legal jargon, but chat laid it out in pure plain English. And it made my job a whole lot more easier, especially explaining to patients why their insurance didn't want to cover certain medications or what might have been going on with back orders of a lot of medications during that time. And finally, my mini fan dub project. I'll be honest, I never reached the finish line and my fan dub project didn't materialize into anything. However, something about me did change during the process when I was trying to make it. I wasn't just talking about ideas anymore. I was actually building something, learning to edit audio, pulling stock footage, experimenting with my voice. Those steps might seem small, but after years of waiting for the right moment, it felt like I'd finally punched back. And it was an addicting feeling. I felt like I finally kicked to the curb my old habit of just talking, but never doing anything. Even smaller tests like fashion advice, vacation planning tips. It was all reinforcing one thing. Chat wasn't just a tool, it was a partner, helping me simplify, plan, and experiment without getting stuck. And the more I tested it, the more I realized this wasn't just about AI doing the work for me, it was about me showing up. Chat was just a shove to get me going. From that point forward, I was hungry for more. But there was just two things stopping me. I still went to school full time, and I was still working full time. But that waiting game, it was a test. It was a test to that hunger. When school finally ended, and when I finally left my job, would I act? And that's relevant because before AI, I still had tools like YouTube or Google at my fingertips. The problem wasn't having access to those tools, it was action. I didn't have the fire to start, nor the fire to finish anything. As hinted in the beginning, I settled about 4 years ago. I convinced myself that many of my dreams I had, they just weren't meant to be. Time was shrinking, progress was slowing. I rethought my priorities and focused on school and work only. Another factor was reverting to my faith at 18. It gave me peace, but I mistook that peace for a reason to stop pushing myself. Looking back, it wasn't a sign to quit. It was a chance to reset and rebuild. Despite all that, there was always that little voice that kept asking, had I peaked? Maybe that was a flame that's been brewing these last 2 years. And I can't pinpoint to one exact moment that started this flame. Might have been a series of many dominoes falling over time, but I'll go over the most important ones that feel relevant and I for sure want to share. First was getting respect. For the first time in my life, I was respected by classmates, coworkers, as well as at my internships. Being recognized for my authenticity, persona, and effort, it was addicting, and I wanted more of it. Second, inspiration. My roommates were chasing dreams of their own. One was building podcasts, another one was a boxing coach, and one wanted to develop software with the dream of going back to his home country and starting his own company. It made me ask, what did I want to create? Third, accountability. There was this interview I saw in the summer of 23 from a Spanish podcast called The Wild Project. The guest, El Gafe 423, he shared his story about his career in the Mexican military. I recommend all of you check it out. The first 40 minutes, he talked about his brutal training. He marched for miles without food, was whipped, sleep deprived, and just pushed to the absolute limit. And there was other brutal stories he had too. His combat stories, some natural disasters, his rescues he was a part of. But what stuck with me wasn't the pain he went through in training, nor his other crazy stories. It was his why. He thought about his daughter, and he couldn't justify in the future when he was pushing her to finish school or to finish something she started if he had quit his own journey. And I'm not sure what it is about, that brief minute or two where he talked about that hit me hard. Now, even though it might seem extreme given our circumstances and lives are dramatically different, I think what's universal no matter what is the thought of explaining to your future children why you gave up at something. I think that's a pain I don't ever want to feel. That's a pain I'm sure all of you who want to have a family one day don't ever want to feel. Finally, my comfort betrayed me. The life I'd settled into, the one I thought was enough, it stabbed me in the back. My relationship failed and left me with nothing to show for it. And all I ever had to talk about all the time was just work and school. Nobody ever called me out on it, but I just annoyed myself. I felt like I had outgrown my college job and I wanted a new challenge. Even my internships made me question if I wanted to be known for just my job. Seeing some of my coworkers out there building things outside the office. And here I was, stuck. I had put everything into the school and work basket, but that was about to end. What excuses would I have then? Would I be happy when it all ran out? Or would I finally start building? I didn't want to settle anymore. And all year I kept repeating to myself, this isn't where my story ends. And that's when my first video came in. You guys know what inspired me to do this channel if you saw that video. It took weeks to make, but every step felt like progress. And hitting 1,000 views, that wasn't just a number. It was proof. Proof that I could build something real. Because this wasn't about school or work or checking boxes. This was about ownership. For the first time, I had something that was mine. And I was putting it out there for the world to see. And yeah, it's just one video. This channel might fall off, but I'd rather fail publicly than I've never tried at all. Because this isn't the end, it's the start. Next time I'm pushing even further, testing AI to tackle bigger challenges, bigger projects, and I want you guys to be a part of it. So make sure you're here for what's coming next, because if this worked for me, I'm positive it can work for you too. But what about you guys? What's something you've let go of? Dreams, hobbies, ideas? What's one thing you'd pick back up if you knew you wouldn't fail? Let me know in the comments. If you're somebody who's already winning, what's the habit or adjustment that got you there? If you're just starting, what's one small win that keeps you going? If you haven't started yet, what's holding you back? And before I sign off, I want to offer my 2 cents for the following. If you're feeling overwhelmed by wanting to accomplish so much, or if you're stuck and not sure what to start, take time this week to map out a vision. Grab a piece of paper, get out one note, and write down what you know is coming, what needs fixing, what you'd like to happen, and what you need to do to make it all happen. Maybe a lot, and maybe a little. But start organizing your priorities and blueprint where everything fits in your life and the values you hold. Whether it's AI or something else, just start somewhere. Because no one can take that first step for you, not even AI. But trust me, it's worth it. Don't give up on yourself. Whether you're building goals, chasing old passions, or starting something completely new, you were made for greatness. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need it. I'll see you guys in the next video, and take care.